Solomon, what do you make of it all?
I basically agree with everything everybody said. And
You do? We don't.
I agree that the Paralympics, like Zoe, I think not every disabled person wants to be a Paralympian or has an interest in any kind of sport whatsoever. And it just seems that every 4 years, the Paralympics becomes such a big deal. And I think it's good, but I think that you can't expect every disabled person to want to play sport or to watch it or to participate in sport. And a big problem here is that often disability sport is so far away and often facilities are non-existent. There's a lot of news articles recently that's saying that a lot of Paralympians can't actually get to the venues or can't get to either to the facilities because they're just so far away or they're closing down or they're not accessible. I think that's a big issue as well. And so I don't know. I think it's in a whole, it's a good idea to have the Paralympics, but I think a lot more emphasis needs to be on legislating what actually happens with afterwards. And I do agree with Joe when she said about the different media channels. Why is it that the BBC has one and Channel 4 has the other? It just doesn't make sense. Why would two different broadcasters have it? And it's like making it less human. And I really don't like the word normal and the word normalization. I think it kind of implies that if you're disabled or not disabled, it puts it into categories. At the end of the day, all human beings. But I think in terms of the Paralympics, I think, as Michaela said as well, it feels like we're kind of stuck now in terms of it feels like the word superhuman, it's also become like another label. It worked really well in 2012, the whole advertising campaign. Now it's like that's the default thing. It just doesn't feel it works as well. This year it feels like it's just, okay, you can't do anything else. How can we make it fit regardless? And it's just actually, it's another label, another categorization of disabled.
I feel like the superhuman thing that works as kind of like it's almost like, you know, a joke that someone says that you go, oh yeah, it is kind of like that. But then when it stays and stays and stays, then it does become that categorization that for me leads to one of the big things that I saw in that video that I shared that I know you later tagged me in, where the woman talks about possible objectification of people with disabilities in the Paralympics. That's something that I think objectification is spot on the right word to be able to say, you know, this is what we shouldn't lead towards and this is how we should work away from it. I don't know, Zoe?
I mean, don't we objectify all athletes? Like, we are interested in them because of their bodies and their physical characteristics.
Yeah, but we don't take most athletes from a vulnerable demographic. If we're doing it on a whole, here's my problem. If there's a demographic of people that are hugely underrepresented in society, and then we objectify them, then that's troubling. When we do it I mean, there are many words to be said as to objectification and of the athletes on the Olympics. I make no bones about it. I have huge disagreements about the Olympics, like the way China pays their athletes and puts them in schools from the age of 2 and 3 and picks them based on a physicality at a young age, based on you know how we admire and adorn like people like, you know, footballers who are finished by the age of 38 and then have to find something else to do with their lives, or rugby players who do the exact same and don't have the riches to live on. I mean, I think there's huge problems wrong with it. But I think that there's an extra step, an extra level here when we're talking about a demographic that is, to start with, hugely underrepresented in society.
So your solution to them being underrepresented is to not represent them?
No, it's to more fairly represent. I'll say this now. I would have not no Paralympics, but I would have an incorporated Paralympics into the Olympics, and gladly see disabled sport in the Olympics as a whole represented less if we could have disabled sport, boccia, all the ones I've mentioned, on Sky Sports alongside things like non-league football or women's basketball or the other things that are kind of watched day in, day out. I think because right now they're not there.
So no, I agree with you.
And that's how I'd say a reshuffling of it. Not okay. Suleiman has left us. We're going to finish off the debate without him, and onwards we move.
I was just going to. I mean, I agree that disability sport is underrepresented at all other levels. I don't see how it's a zero-sum game though. Why would you want to bring the Paralympics down in order to bring other disability sport? It's not like, there's a certain amount of disability sport that's allowed to be shown on the TV, and the Paralympics is taking up all of that allocation. There's no reason why you can't integrate disability sports into other events without necessarily having to reduce the Paralympics. That seems unnecessary to me.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
But again,
strategical thinking. Go on, Michaela.
I think that's the thing. No, I don't think any of us are asking for it to be the dynamic necessarily to be changed. We're just asking for people to look at it and say, hey, that makes one financial sense, because I begin to wonder how much financial sense it makes to have the Paralympics outside the Olympic sphere. And secondly, how much of it actually represents disabled sport fairly and disabled people fairly. We're talking about people, when we're talking about murderball, when we're talking about murderball in particularly, because you can be serious in age you're playing it. When we talk about murderball, we talk about wheelchair ice hockey's out there, which most people don't know about. There's so many vast different sports that aren't represented within the main game. And self-professed Super League was elated and delighted and recorded I think it was the final of the World Championship back in May, when they put a full 15-minute segment on about the beginnings of the world of disability bundles of snooker. So that was something for me that was like, yes, let's integrate that with the main game, and they do that to an extent, but they haven't fully done it yet. And it's the same as, we go back to tennis, we go back to situations where they are integrated, and there's no reason why we can't do that without taking away what the Paralympics does. And it does represent a really positive thing in society. It says, hey, these people are disabled. They're athletes. They're getting on with their everyday life to an extent. It just frustrates me that we can't integrate it and as Solomon says, normalise it. And we need to start to normalise disability, to start moving forward again. And we're just stuck. We're stuck in 2012. It's now 2016. Why are we not moving forward with that normalisation? And back in 2012, I felt elated that we were in that normal sphere. And I don't know, I'm conflicted now as to whether we are or not.
Yeah, I think, fine. If we have the Paralympics and keep them as they are, then fine. But we really, society needs to really say, if society says, yes, the Paralympics are this great standalone event because there's a market for it, then we need to see that. We need to see that representation grow in everyday life. And as I've said, not on television, on sports television, but outside of that, I mean, for me, the standalone nature of it, the fact that it's like it just doesn't sit well with me, and that's the problem. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, nothing will ever erase the image from my mind of Steve Davis, world champion soccer player, and Mark Allen, who is from Northern Ireland, not yet the world champion, but I'm sure certainly will be at one time or another, sitting in a wheelchair trying to play snooker sitting down, and they both couldn't hit a ball. They were useless, and that really amused me. So we're talking about people doing things that are extraordinary, and there's no doubt about that. But equally so, what Steve Davis did and what Mark Allen did when they're on TV is extraordinary. We're not saying that that's not the case. What we are saying is that we've got to look at how we do it. We've got to look at the rhetoric surrounding it, because there is a lot of rhetoric, and that as a PR person annoys me. So I don't think we need it. I don't think we need that that superhuman stance anymore. I think we're beyond that now. And we're lagging behind a little bit. So, I mean, I think
I always think back to what I see as like 5 steps, only 5 steps because I've got 5 fingers. But like it's like you start off at stage 1 where it's like there's no representation of something, or there's huge unfairness. So you work to the next stage, or then the stage after and the stage after. And the second, these next stages may not be good stages, but they might be stages that lead to the optimum place, which is everything being right and just. And it's kind of like, I feel like maybe the Paralympics, certainly the way it was in 2012, was a step up to maybe step 2 or 3 or whatever, and it's leading on to something better, but we really need to push it on to that better thing. If we stick there, it's like, no, this isn't what we're after. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that we are in early days. It was only in the 1980s, really, that disabled people who were disabled from birth were going home with their families, and their families were raising them. My sister probably being one of the earliest of those, certainly in the UK anyway. We go out to the third world countries, and in some cases that's still happening. They're put into orphanages and they're left there for someone to come and rescue. And I really do see it as a rescue, because to me there's no reason for disabled people to have to live in an institution anymore. That's a whole other debate. But we're in early days. It was only 1988 that the Games were integrated, in terms of them both being held in the same country, in the same place, in the same facilities, and it being a condition of your Olympic bid that you must host both. So that's new, and we're in early days. It's time that we started to move on now.
And Michaela, that's why I think sometimes I'm too young, sometimes I'm too naive, and I don't compare it to that. If I'm comparing it to that, then, oh yeah, this is brilliant, yeah, more of this. But I'm just seeing it in my own mind as like, wait a minute, this isn't perfect. it could be better.
But I think that's the thing of our generation. We can remember those days. We can remember those days where people like me were stuck in an institution.
Solomon's back, everyone. Sorry, Michaela.
Hi, Solomon. Yeah, no, I mean, I just, people like me were stuck in an institution at birth and left there. Families may have come and visited or whatever and did what they could, but my lawyers were recommended to forget about us, in a sense, by the medical profession. And that's starting to change. That's really starting to change. Disabled people are living longer, and they're living, by and large, happier lives as well. And I often forget that too. I often forget that it's not really all that much long ago that things were very different. And my own grandpa, whenever my sister was diagnosed, used to fight with my mum and dad and say, nah, there's no way this is genetic. And we never heard of these things. These things never happened before. And my mum discovered that one of our neighbours was living in an institution because his family had been told to leave him there. And that's all right. That was those times. That was the way things were done. But things are different now. And I think the Paralympics is the beginning of that revolution. And we're now at a point where it's time for a bit more change. It's time for a bit more progression. And unless disabled people realise, actually, this in turn impacts in our everyday lives. This is how people see disabled people. Non-disabled people take their reference point from the media. And the media have got to think about how they're creating those reference points and make them more normal.
Yeah. Zoe, if we finish off, I think my question would be, what differences, what progression would you like to see between now and maybe in 4 years' time? What, if any, do you think the representation is fine? Do you think the way it's portrayed is okay? What's your thoughts?
I do actually feel like the way that Channel 4 have done the Paralympics in terms of the way it's been presented and sort of the fact that they've been using so many disabled presenters and the way that a lot of the advertising, not necessarily by Channel 4, but the advertising that Channel 4 have been allowing to go on around the Paralympics by other companies and things like that, has been a really good thing for me. Like, I've seen so many people with disabilities on TV, and there have been conversations that have been had about disability that I don't think would have taken place without that there. So I actually think whatever your feelings about their use of the word superhuman and their own advertising of the event, the way that they've actually carried out the broadcasting of it has been really good, and they've done it in a way that it's about the sport rather than about disability as such. But it's also been quite, what I really enjoyed about it is it's been quite light-hearted. It's been a bit more, the Olympics takes itself very seriously. And for someone like me who's kind of like, I'll watch if it's on, I'll have it on TV in the background. That's a bit like, get a grip. Whereas with the Paralympics, they've been a little bit more light-hearted. It's kind of like, this is great. These people doing great things. Let's talk about it in a way that it's not like super serious, and we can kind of be a bit more human about the whole thing. So from that perspective, I think it's been really good. And I would like to see that kind of representation of disability sport continue, not necessarily with Channel 4, but just generally speaking, having that kind of broad representation. So they've been using disabled presenters as well, and I know that they've had a lot of disabled people working on the programming behind the camera as well as in front of it. So that's great. I really like that. I don't think it should just be for the Paralympics though. I think Paralympics is great. It's a bit touch point, and that was the whole thing with 2012. Like Channel 4 became the Paralympic broadcaster, and they did then keep on things like the last leg and various other sort of bits of disability programming, which is great. I would like to see other channels doing that. And I feel like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like probably the UK are leading in that sphere in terms of how they're representing disabled people at the Paralympics. Certainly the bits and pieces I've seen of other national broadcasts of the event have not been the same, and have been kind of much less of a prime time viewing slot, much less of a well publicized thing. So in terms of the representation, I think that's been actually really good. I would like, actually, rather than looking at what I want to see in 4 years, I want to see that continue for 4 years, rather than it being something that we dip in and out of. That's the thing for me. I don't think it should necessarily take the Paralympics for us to suddenly be interested in disabled people and have disabled people on the TV and have disabled people as, have disability as something that, we can talk about in a way that's not just like, oh, disability is so sad. Like, just have it as something that's part of life and part of like regular conversation, and just something that's just there. We don't really have to dwell on it, and it's more about what the person is doing other than just being disabled. So I think thinking about it in like 4 year chunks is not a very helpful thing to do. Actually, let's look at it for the whole 4 year period rather than just 2 weeks every 4 years, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's, in fact, it feels like we all sort of agree on the whole, and I think I think discussions like this just really help open up the dialogue. And I think that's the thing, as you said, with the 4 year thing. That's the thing for me, is like, I do worry, as I worry with the Olympics too, it's like, what does the public think? What does the general public think? Do they think all of a sudden, oh, disability's okay, disability's not so bad because this person can do that thing? And it's like, no, disability is all right, regardless of whether they can do that thing that you saw them do on that, and that's the thing, I think, going back, and that's the thing that influences a lot of what I say and a lot of what I think. And I think I wholly agree on that 4 year thing. It's funny because you said you like all the disabled presenters and everything, but when I saw that, I thought, this is, for me, that was my fear, that this was tokenism, that this was just simple, get disabled people in for these few weeks and then, right, see you in 4 years. And that was my biggest worry. So yeah, I think that's certainly something, I think that's a great closing remark to, hopefully we'll see this continue for another 4 years. And then it won't just be like surprising next time it comes around.
I want it to not be news in 4 years' time. I want it to just not be news.
There you go. That's and that's sometimes, I think that sums up my whole feelings on the Paralympics. I don't want it to be in the news, but don't be the headline news that...
It shouldn't be news that we have 1/3 of the production crew being disabled. It shouldn't be news that the Girl Who opened New York Fashion Week this week was burnt in a acid attack. It shouldn't be news that Ryan Murphy cast disabled actors. In fact, he needs to look at what he's doing, but that's besides the point. All those things, they are great things. They normalise disability. They don't have to be news. Yeah, put the gold medals in the news, put all the medals in the news. But the fact that they're disabled shouldn't be the news. And that's what I want to see in 4 years' time.
That's wonderful. Right, guys, I think that's been a really good episode, and we'll catch you all again soon. Comment, like, share, comment below if you like anything or you want us to talk about anything else. And yeah, send us an email, get in touch, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.